Well, not doing a huge amount in this week's video, just preparing to get this engine case, top case, and the one over here, the bottom case of my 1984 VF750F engine back together. And I just need to go and dig out all of the engine case bolts. I think there's 28 in total, and they're looking a bit ropey, so let's go dig them out and have a look at them. They're going to be in here somewhere. Lower crankcase. That might be some of them. Crankshaft. Should have 28 bolts in total, I think. I think I've actually put these in order by the looks of it, the way I've laid them out. How many I've got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then in here, I think actually one of the crankcase bolts has got a cable attached to it because it's the ground strap. Yeah, by crankshaft I did mean sort of crankcase journal bolts, inner and outer, so there should be 6 inner, and I think is there 14 in total, so that's 8 outer. Yeah, 8 outer, so that would make my 28, wouldn't it? So one of these has got to be the bolt that holds down the ground strap as well, so I will need to go and find that before I bolt all these up, because obviously that needs a torque setting and I don't want to go then undoing it just to put the ground strap on, because that would not be very even-handed, would it? So let's get all these out and have a look at them anyway. It's quite obvious which ones are the inner and outer, because well, apart from the fact I've bagged them up separately, there's 6 inner and 8 outer. And all those little ones are just kind of case bolts really, but these are the ones that are, yeah, kind of holding the crank journals. But they're all case bolts. Oh, these are the outer. Because there's 8 of them. Let's push them aside for a second. These are the inner. For these, there's just one bolt that's longer than the other. I think every bolt were exactly the same, apart from that one. Yeah, they look pretty much the same. I don't know why that sat in part of the case that just was on a sort of a high point, so it just had a longer bolt hole. All of these are exactly the same. Now these were all of this. These were all in this condition when I took them out, and these came out of the old cases, of course. These weren't like this when I took them out. They've just gone a little bit like that in storage. So bear in mind they were inside the engine. So I don't think I washed them or anything. Maybe I rinsed them off. Don't know. Yeah, I think I rinsed them off actually. That's probably why they've just kind of flash rusted, because I rinsed them off just to kind of degrease them with the incredibly smeggy oil that was on them. That's why they've gone like that, but these were kind of like that already. And these look reasonably okay, but they've got a bit of white oxide on them, a little bit of red oxide. So we're just going to get these all cleaned up. But I'm going to go and find the ground strap as well, because I need to make sure that goes back on at the same time. I've got a feeling it's that one there, the really long one, poking out there. Anyway, let's see if we can find the ground strap. Not in here. Anyway, just goes to show how you can mislabel things. I'm just going through this other bin to try and find this ground strap. And 4 bolts in there, 4 bolts in there, and they're both labelled up front head bolts, so I've clearly mixed them up. No idea which ones are which now. Hopefully it doesn't make any difference. So find another bag labelled up upper crankcase bolts. That is the 3 bolts that I took out of the upper case, but what that means is, yeah, these are all lower crankcase, which means that one there hasn't got anything to do with the ground strap. And I do remember one of these plus another one, I think, had the ground strap, so still need to go hunting for that. Can't find it so far in here. That's all that's left in here. That's one of the tensioner mechanisms, so we could put all this stuff back. Well, I think that's the only tensioner mechanism actually. I think it services both sides. Anyway, can't remember. Let's put all these things back in. No matter how hard you try to label things up and not mix things up, it's so easy to go wrong. Can't believe I've labelled both sets of 4 as front head bolts. Anyway, let's pop it all back in. Got another bin up there to look through. I might have even gone and put it back on the bike. No, I don't think so. Definitely 4 bolts on the upper case, I think, including the one with the ground strap. We just need to find it. It's clearly not in here, so we will keep searching. I've got all that back in the bin except the stator bolts, which I shall slot back in, and this little bag here, which looks like what I was looking for. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything actually, so let's get that out and have a little look. As these are nicely in order, I'm not going to disrupt my forethought, which was to put them in a little pattern template and make sure I didn't have any trouble putting the right bolt back in the right place, because they're clearly all different lengths, so I'm going to maintain that gain and clean them up and keep them in order. Should just say negative earth strap, yeah. Literally it, upper crankcase bolts. 2 have got washers, 1 hasn't. I think actually that's just because it's a shouldered bolt. Anyway, hasn't got a washer, that's how they came off. So anyway, so I know that all of them are the upper crankcase. Can't go wrong because obviously, well not obviously, but the ground strap itself is an upper ground case thing. Obviously just bolts straight down, and annoyingly, because of the loop on this strap, you can't remove this with the engine in the frame, because the length of the bolt fouls on the head when you try and undo it, so you've got to get the heads off to actually remove that. The only way to do it really is to slot this, so I might slot this before I put it back in. Anytime you ever want to remove this, I might just replace that, to be fair, because it's cracking up. So yeah, anytime you ever want to remove the ground strap from the engine, it's a ridiculous amount of effort to lift this bolt out. Anyway, so these will constitute the 4 bolts of the upper crankcase, and these constitute the 28 bolts of the lower. These are the 8 that predominantly look after the crank journals, if you like, and then these kind of orbit the case. So essentially you've got 4 of these at either side, these 6 kind of just further in, so they go longitudinally across the engine. These just circumnavigate with these, the crankcases, so that's why these are the big ones. As I said, all the same bar 1 for the inner, all the same, easy to locate. Let's get cleaning. My other bench, which is not as clean, will be absolutely fine just for setting down freshly cleaned up bolts. I'm going to give them a little wire wheel using this 2-inch brush. I think it's 2 inches, not sure. Looks about that. Just as a highlight, if you can see that too well, still covered in paint. If you go back like 25 videos or however far back you need to go, this whole engine was covered in awful, what looked like house paint. So I had to kind of scrub some of the paint off before I could even get a socket on it. Anyway. Couple are coming out looking rather nice compared to the rusty condition that they started in, so I shall carry on. That's all the outer cap bolts done now. These are 2 different lengths actually, if you can see that now clearly, because I forgot it's 4 each side, and 2 of them that are towards the sort of inner part of the engine are yeah, they sit up slightly higher, so anyway, yeah, you'll see as they go back in. But yeah, they've cleaned up nicely, and I mean obviously they don't look brand new, but they're not, they're like 40 years old. Get to the inner cap bolts now, of which they are all the same length bar 1. The last one of those sort of cap bolts, if you like. This is the really long one. This is one of the inner ones. It's looking pretty grotty anyway. Okay, that's all the cap bolts cleaned now. So yeah, the 8 exterior, 6 interior, obviously 2 longer ones each side, 1 longer one inside. Yeah, the other 5 are all the same length. Anyway, they're all done, and just need to move on to the case, well, the rest of the case bolts for the bottom case, and then we'll have a little look at these 4. But these are the ones I want to really keep in order. Well, I don't know how I've managed to cock this up, but I've cocked this up. So all of these bolts here, these are all those 6 inner and those 8 outer that we've just cleaned. All of the sort of black ones, if you like, and that one, for some reason uncoloured one, are all of these bolts. You can see, so they go round the case rather than just across on the crankcase caps. But That does not follow that pattern. Those 4 in the middle do not follow that pattern. Those do follow that pattern, but God knows how I'm going to fit these into the right holes without a lot of fiddle-faffing around, because they're all different lengths, they're 3 different lengths, they're 2 different lengths. I assume they're in the right order. But what I might have to do is just them up, of course, is dry fit these cases together and find where all those bolts go, and then put them in a new template so that I can very quickly locate where they go once I've put gasket sealant on the surface and properly fitted these together. Because I don't really want to put gasket sealant on them and then be spending ages trying to figure out which bolt goes where, because probably want to get these things torqued down as soon as possible once they're together. Make logical sense to me anyway. So let me get cleaning these anyway. They don't look too bad, but you can see a few of them have got a good bit of aluminium oxide on them, so I'll get the wire wheel on them. They should clean up nicely. Clean up the heads nicely as well. And I will put them back in this template. I just can't for the life of me figure out what I did wrong there. It's strange. At the time I probably thought just put them in and figure it out later, which now I'm kind of regretting. That was the whole point of making this template. I might just as well have slung them in a bag. Never mind. Some of these have got quite stubborn deposits of, well, no, not deposits, wrong word, but you could call it deposits. Aluminium oxide, it's come from the aluminium within the cases, but it is coming off with a wire wheel. I might just need to run a dye over some of these threads. And some of them have got what looks like white oxide emulsified in with red oxide. It's clear to see, and it's extremely hard. White oxide is, you know, crikey, second hardest to diamond, so trying to remove it with a fast moving, high spinning, mild steel brush is only having so much effect. So yeah, I might just need to run a dye over these threads. They're all cleaning up okay though. It's just not as easy as brushing the threads. Presume that's, I would imagine, 6mm diameter, 1mm pitch. We'll get a gauge on it, have a quick look. Let's clean this one up and take a look at all of them. They're all pretty good, but to the visible eye, not on camera, you can see bolts there. Still a good dusting of white oxide. Just want to get it all nice and clean so they run smoothly. I won't run a tap through the cases because that's a recipe for disaster. You're trying to clear aluminium oxide out of aluminium threads. They should be okay. It's the stainless steel really that picks up the worst of it. It's not a good mix. So anyway, I'm going to run a tap over these. So I've got a split die set up. It's an M6 by 1mm thread pitch, and as you can see, I've not cranked down on it, so that will give a very light cleanup of these threads. So I'm just going to run each one of them through in turn, and that should sort them out. So if I start with one where the thread seems to be suffering a little bit, you can see that not quite clean around there. If I run that through, you can see it doesn't quite want to go even there. knocked out quite a lot of rubbish. As you can probably see now, is fairly clean. So it looked like it was cutting, but it wasn't. It was just pulling crap out of the threads. So that's all good. Well, they're all coming out nice and clean now. That's the last one, skipping forward. Sure you didn't want to watch all of those being cleaned individually. Anyway, so I've done all of them now. All look pretty good. They are pretty much clear of any white oxide now and anything else that was hanging about in them threads that didn't want to come out with that wire wheel. So that's all of the lower crankcase bolts done. These being all the perimeter bolts, these being all the sort of crankshaft cap bolts, if you like, for want of a better term. And I've cleaned all the upper crankcase bolts as well. I even gave this a bit of a hit with the wire wheel just to make sure we've got a good ground there, so it's all fine. So literally these cases are ready to go together now, and thanks to my terrible attempt at some semblance of organisation, getting these bolts all into the right place so I know where they went back, I'm going to need to dry fit these cases so that I can just figure out which one goes where, put them into a proper template, and then I can pull the cases apart again, get some gasket sealer down, and then get the bolts in all nice and quickly, because the issue is that I think you need to fit all the inner ones, so the six, the six there, then the outer ones, then torque them down, then put all of these in, and you don't want to be doing that, you know, sometime later. You just want to get them quickly in, torque down, without messing around trying to figure out which one goes where, particularly as they've got a torque pattern to them. So anyway, that is going to be the next video, and I just needed to get all of these cleaned up, and these. But we are now ready to get these cases put back together. I'll do the dry fit off camera because it won't cost me any sealant, obviously, so I can fiddle around and play with it to my heart's content, because it's going to be a little awkward because you've got these chains. They need to hang down through the bottom so that they kind of hang out through the tunnels, and of course you've got brackets and guide rails and bits and bobs like that, and of course I've got to make sure that these two middle gears line up with the forks there. So it's all going to be a bit awkward, so actually a little dry practice is a good thing, and then you don't make any mess, and then you can just pull it apart and do it for real. So that's next. I'll do that off camera so I can take my time, but we are getting there. We are nearly back together. And so in the next video we will get the cases together, so that is the engine complete in one piece anyway. That's what I mean by complete. So, and whilst it's still upside down, of course, there are a few internal bits still to go in. Oil pump and all the ancillaries, pipe work that goes with it before we put the sump on, flip it back over, tensioner bits, get the heads on, or look at the external engine components on either side, clutch, stator, all of those external mechanisms that need fitting. Doesn't really matter what order it goes in at this point, so whatever takes my fancy. So till then, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.